life for the best flourishing of that person. And there's a really big difference. Accepting a person doesn't mean washing away all your tenets or your moral belief system.
I mean, I think that particular issue is one of the issues that the church is going to be wrestling with for the next decade. And it's perhaps one of the most divisive, one of the most difficult. It feels very new to us, but the church has gone through shifts like that in the past. But this understanding of how do you understand biblical truth and yet understand inclusion, it allows you to see the love of God. How do you, and my thought is that God's going to be working through lots of different ways. Like, what does that person's exclusion look like? Is it really kind of abusive and serious rejection of saying you're not welcome in this church until you change something? That's not gospel. But if it's really holding to a truth lovingly, then maybe it's different. So I think, as I've thought about this, and that understanding of the gay and lesbian community and their understanding of the gospel of feeling excluded is very important to me. And I think that God's just going to be doing all kinds of personal stories of having you in someone's life and having people who are able to engage life on life to be able to explain in ways that to talk about the truth of God in ways that people can hear rather than just looking at the news or hearing things from
I think it had something. We used to have, I'm sure you've all heard this expression, love the person, hate the sin. And I think that is no longer working. And I think that's one of the reasons Pope Francis, sorry to keep bringing back Catholic popes, but they do have some amazing things to say. And why, it's his famous early statement on that airplane from Rio, who am I to judge? Well, his whole statement is, who am I to judge, as in this case, if we're going to talk sexuality, a homosexual who is faithfully searching for God, which is right. Who is he to judge? None of us have a right to judge. I think one of the challenges of many of the churches with respect to gay people is the churches haven't, both Protestant and Catholic, haven't done a good job talking about the single vocation. And it's something that applies to both heterosexual and homosexual people. It's actually something I feel very strongly about, and I'm actually spending this summer to start writing a book about this issue, because until the church, whether Protestant or Catholic or whatever church we're talking about, lovingly embrace people that aren't religious or religious vocations or married, you can't wholeheartedly, I think, effectively welcome homosexuals or heterosexual single people. And so I think that's part of the challenge.
There's another question.
I'm an extrovert. I love being around people, but some of the best friendships and closest friendships I had were every day, and there were just a handful of those. There are a lot of people at Dartmouth, and in my experience, befriending one means not befriending another or ignoring another, having a lesser relationship with another. When I think, I graduated in 2012, and there were a lot of Christian fellowships, and I've seen a lot of movement. I'll just use some Protestant groups as examples. When I got here, the Navigators were really popular. Before that, Dartmouth Christian Fellowship was really popular. In my time, Crew was very popular, and Agape, and it's transitioned to Christian Union. And there was a division between those groups and Aquinas, just socially. You had different friends in different groups. But Jesus asks us to care for the sojourner, for the widow, for the poor, for the orphan. And sometimes I wonder if we're caring so much for those, does it mean we're ignoring or excluding those who are more powerful? If we care for the Dartmouth Movement Forward is very much about caring for the marginalized, and it's doing some things against some very powerful people like the fraternities. How does including one lead us to exclude another, just de facto? And what can students here right now learn about that issue and how this is going to affect their life here on campus?
Fantastic question.
Oh, we're out of time.
Actually, we're not.
actually look at the challenge a little bit differently because where I stand today, my natural connection would be the well-to-do. Okay, so it would be people maybe in my whether it's wealth, social, position, or what have you, and the people that I am likely to invite and be invited, are basically people who have, made it, so the powerful and and whatever. So the challenge really is for us to look for the needy. When Christ, unrolled that scroll, in that first, message, God has called me, okay, to look after, the oppressed, the marginalized, as you were saying, etc. So I think that's the challenge for us, because we see this poor, person, or you go to an African, city or village, and you see misery as you have not seen it here in America. Because when you talk about the poor here in America, yeah, the poor here are very well to do. Okay, in America, the poor in America have TVs and have all kinds of things. You go to Africa or you go to India, the poor struggles to put food in his stomach or her stomach, every 2 days or 3 days. So to me, really, our challenge, where we are, and all of you as, the younger generation, you are going to be blessed. You will have wonderful, lives. God is calling us really to look at the little one of these. That's going to be the challenge. It's not the powerful, and it's not the people that are levels. We can interact with those people. We can influence them. We can impact their lives, and we have stories to tell on them. But are we looking down on the little one of these?
I was just going to say, adding at it though, Mother Teresa said the greatest poverty she ever saw was in New York City amongst the elite. There's a great deal of despair and poverty of spirit, poverty of heart, spirit of heart, amongst the elite, because when you have everything this world says is going to make you happy, well, we're at Dartmouth, you got into one of the best schools in the world, and you're still not happy, and you don't have anything to fall back on. So I would argue that wherever we're placed, you're placed amongst the elite, wherever you're placed, because God wants you to be the light. So while we have to have a preferential option for those, preferential treatment to those who are less privileged, I don't think we can lose sight of the people first. And many of us necessarily are dealing with more elite people, if you will, or people of higher socioeconomic strata.
And I'm agreeing with that. So what I'm saying is basically that my social contacts are with those people.
Right.
So I can actually influence them and what they do. But since I am not meeting with the little ones of these, the calling for me, my principal calling, is to take care and to try, what he's been doing, to do my very best to teach them. I will be in contact with the well-to-do, etc. I've got to live a life, and I've got to share, about Christ, or when they ask questions, I've got to be prepared to answer the question of why are you like this. But however, this poor guy that, I was just in Tulsa the other day. I'm coming out of there is, a man who can't, even talk. He's kind of, shivering, and he's coming and he's saying, I am hungry. How do you react to that? How do you react to that? Okay, so that's what I'm talking about.
One of my experiences is, as I said, I grew up, I was in college with a whole bunch of guys who had achieved a lot, but then there were these kids who had been added in. And I later learned that all my friends were all upper caste. I didn't even know. Especially now that I meet them 30 years after college, I now find out that they are connected at a very high level. They're all very high caste. And by now there have been some Supreme Court decisions in India which have said 55% of the people are lower caste. And the upper caste has been hogging the top 80% of opportunities. So from now on, 55% of college seats will be available to the lower caste. But what happens to the people who were from the upper end? Now they can't get their kids into college. So when I have a class reunion in Delhi, this is what they're talking about. Not only are they really mad against the lower caste, but the lower caste are now threatening their kids' opportunities. So there's no love lost for them at all, okay? However, they like me, and they like what I'm doing. So come with me. Come with me, I'm going here. Now, sometimes they say, okay, I've got 700 employees. How do 700 people know that you care about them? Well, I can't. I can't do everybody. But the fact that I develop friendships and relationships with some actually humanizes me to the point that everybody else can relate to it. Okay? So you come with me on my next trip. Come with me. Now, there are people who have done that to me. Come with me, I'm going to the leper colony. Ooh, that's out of my range, okay? And then I see how they interact with these guys, just as if they're perfectly normal,